obtained a perfect score on his math SAT. Please join me in congratulating Miguel Gebes. At this time, I am pleased and honored to announce that once again, our student athletes have made all conference for the 2015 football season. If I could ask Mr. Stead to join me. We have Amir Tyler, who made second team All-State, first team All-Shore for defense, first team All-State Group 3, and B South Division Defensive Player of the Year. Amir? Everybody's missing today.
No, he's here.
He's here?
He'll be here. Let's go.
Yep, great. Okay, we have Jaquel Hunter, who is B South Division first team All Defense. State championship track meet. We have Joshua Lesson. He's a B South Division first team All Defense. He's also at the state championship. We have Zahir Jones, B South Division first team All Offense. Okay, we have Elijah Gill, who cannot make it, who makes B South Division first team All Offense. And we have Coach L.J. Clark, who makes B South Division Coach of the Year with 6 wins. And we have Amir Tyler. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
At this time, I would like to introduce to you our Supervisor of Testing and Guidance, Mrs. Tony Ponte, who will be presenting our Spring of 2015 Park data. Tony?
Thank you, Ms. Winters. Welcome to all our new board members. I'm here tonight to talk about our partnership for assessment of readiness for college and career, commonly known as the PARC assessment. PARC, I'm going to be flip-flopping between reading from here so I don't miss any data to reading from the screen because my notes are so tiny. But bear with me because what I want you to know first is that I took a state presentation of 44 slides and condensed it into 16 to make you all happy. So here we go. PARC is an end-of-course assessment, meaning that we no longer test just language arts and just mathematics. That's tested in grades 3 through 8, and in grades 9 through 11, we test Algebra 1 geometry and Algebra 2. So students may be enrolled in the course and will test during that course enrollment year, or they may not be enrolled in a math class and not test at all in high school. All grades 3 through 8 will test math. For language arts, students in grades 3 through 11 are all tested in English language arts, which is a little bit different than the past HESPA and New Jersey Ask tests. They tested English language literacy, which is a little bit different. The PARC assessment focuses more on how much of the language you know, not how well you can answer a test question. So having said that, I've been to numerous state workshops, and what I came away with, most of all, to tell to the, if you're a parent here, you will appreciate this. When you see the PARC scores, they're very different than any of our former tests. React to them, but don't overreact. The PARC is only one measurement of student achievement, and the test results should not be viewed in isolation. This helps us to look at the overall performance of a student in many different areas rather than focus on just particular course performance. And they are not used for promotional reasons at all. A student cannot perform well on the PARC and still be promoted to the next grade level. Having said that, we have throughout the district, each school has had their own parent information session on how exactly to view the PARC scores when they do arrive. And they should all be coming out this week throughout the district. So what I want you to see first is a little bit about how they are presented. So looking at the sample score report, and this is only a sample, it is not true student data. I don't have a pointer to actually show you where I'm looking, but I will try to explain that to you. If you look up at the top of the test, it says level 3 on the left-hand side, and it says that your child performed at level 3 and earned a score of 739. So as you're reading the first page, you're saying, well, that's great, what the heck is level 3? So I'm gonna flip forward for a minute, and on page 2 of the test results, in that little red box, you're gonna see that the levels are outlined for you. So you can flip back and forth to see exactly what it is that the student performed, what level they actually reached. So after you have gotten the score report, if you want to look down further on the page, you will be able to see the school average, the district average, the state average, and the PARC average. Further down the page, you're going to see the total reading score for the student and the total writing score. Then more towards the center and bottom of the page, it tells you exactly where, with the little blue circle and the arrows, which go down, across, and up, how well your students are performing in those particular areas, and the legend is at the bottom. So if you see an arrow pointing down, it means the same thing as if your thumb's pointing down. They're kind of a little below where they need to be. Horizontally, they nearly meet the expectations, and arrows pointing up indicate that they have met the expectations. Now, keep in mind, and I don't know if you can see this very well, but at the top of the levels, that should say 650 and 850. In the transition, somehow the numbers were left off, but that is what will appear on the score reports at home. Students that are performing at level 4s and 5s meet the expectations or exceed the expectations. So, notice that it's not a particular numerical result that we get, it's a level, it's a range. Page 2 goes into more detail as far as what it is to look for when you're viewing page 1. And some of the common questions that are raised by parents and teachers as well are at the bottom of the second page. And as we move on, this is the New Jersey Park score in graph format. And if you notice the legend on the right, you have from red to blue. And if you add up the percentages, they all don't equal 100% due to rounding up or rounding up. When a new test is given, and you'll see in grade 3, the results typically come out lower. It's the first year the students test, and it's the first year of the test. So that was expected. The statewide results also indicate that students tend to perform better in earlier years. If you look at grade 3, the red is a lot longer, but as they go up in grades, it gets up to about 5th grade, they tend to do better. 6th, 7th, and 8th is what? Middle school. Everything gets a little bit blurry in middle school, but if you see the yellow and the blue, there's still quite a bit of range results in the positive. This is the mathematics Park scores. Same thing, but what they want you to actually notice is that grade 8 is going to look a little bit skewed because there are students in 8th grade that are enrolled in Algebra 1. So, the Algebra 1 students' scores are reported to the high school, and the grade 8 Park scores are reported to the middle school. So this kind of splits those test results when you're looking at the graph. Now for the fun part, remember I said there was 47 slides, so there's quite a bit of information on these pages. I'm going to work through the first report, then I will let you view the next set of reports, and we will go from grade 3 through 11. So, here's our district summary reports for grade 3. You have at the top English Language Arts, and the second one is our mathematics report. So, it's very hard for me to read my notes, and it's hard for me to read those notes. But if you look at the first set of graphs, the colors actually correspond to the second set of graph colors on the right. What is easiest to view right now is for you to look down the center of the report where it says Park, State, District, and then our elementary schools. So if you notice that the Park scores are 7, can anybody else read it? I don't have my other set of glasses either. But what I noticed right away was that our state scores were higher than the Park results, which is a plus because if you listen to any of the radio stations in New Jersey, you know that New Jersey is always getting bashed for not having quality education, yet we performed better on most of our tests than the entire group of Park states, which were actually 13. And you can see that numbers in the 500,000, I believe, of how many students were actually tested. So then you break it down to Clifton, Clark, and Oak, and that gives you the score results. And you'll see that those results are not too far off, within 20 to 30 point range, or 10 to 20% range, depending on what page we're on. And that, I have to say, district-wide is much better than we anticipated would come in. Even though our teachers were working hard, the students were working hard, we did not know what to expect. But for the first year of these results coming out, we were pretty happy with that. And don't forget, this is grade 3, first year the kids are taking the test, first year that we're administering the test. Now we go on to grade 4.
Can I ask you a question?
No, yes you can.
All right. No, go back to the
Grade 3?
Yeah. Can you just explain to me how we do that? I was looking at the state, the park, and then looking at our Clifton, the Clark, and the Oak Street, and it seems we have more revenue.
No, New Jersey, we outperformed the other park states overall.
Oh, you're talking about New Jersey, but now.
Yes, the state scores. No, our district did not outperform the park consortium, but we did come in a range of 20 points, is that? Or I can't really, I apologize, I can't see the small print, but the range is not as high as the state range, but it is in a performance range that we were very happy to see. We anticipated scores to come out not as well as they did for the first year. Now we'll go to grade 4. Grade 4, numbers increased a little bit, and our state average is still better than the park average. And the scores, district-wide, which I can't read again, are posted, and as board members you have a copy of the report, which I hope you can read. Grade 4 was a little bit better performance rate than grade 3. You go on to grade 5, which is usually known as a transition year because the students are getting ready to go into middle school, and we state outperformed the park as well. There's been quite a few changes in the first administration of park. I'll let you look at those scores for a minute. The first administration, there were 2 different test administrations. We had a performance-based assessment that was a 4-week window, and then we had an end-of-year assessment that was a 4-week window. This year, they are combining and making one testing window that runs from April 4th to May 20th, depending on what school is testing. So that's one of the positives. We will not take up too much instructional time. They've consolidated quite a bit. The second test, one of the other changes they've made for us is that they've condensed the testing time, as well as trying to make the testing times equivalent. We had, in the first round, we had tests that last for 35 minutes, and we had tests that last for 90 minutes. This year, the tests would be very similar in time, which very much helps in planning and scheduling. We go on to grade 7. And this is middle school. Now, on the bottom, you might see Oak Street Elementary School, and it says suppressed. Scores have been suppressed for privacy reasons. This might be because there are students that are in Oak that might be in special needs classrooms, but are technically considered 7th grade, and they would not record those scores. Grade 8, once again, the language arts on the top, math on the bottom, and you can see that the math scores might be a little bit skewed because the Algebra 1 students, which are considered the honor students, are reported to the high school. we get to the high school. The high school's testing, this is our mathematics first. Mathematics tested in geometry, algebra 1, and algebra 2. We have, again, the state outperformed. No, not on this one. The state did not. But the high school's results were down that center column, you can see, where it says State District Lakewood. We are not too far off from the actual Park and state testing scores, averages. These are all average percentages. Now, graduation requirements vary. Once you get into high school, the push is for graduation. So, Parks come up with, for the first few years of the test that's being administered, Park will allow different assessments to count towards graduation. So if you have a student that is in the graduating class up to 2019, they will be allowed to count other tests such as SAT, PSAT, ASVAB, ACT, AccuPlacers. After 2020, we don't know what to expect. They're working on that now, but we don't have any idea what those might be. These are the English language arts scores, grade 9 and 10. And the final test results are for grade 11. Now, I do have to say, grade 11 was probably one of the better testing cohorts in the entire park. And I really feel that I have to say this because the district's been working collaboratively for such a long time that yes, the high school teachers are working cohesively with the students. However, we are seeing the results of the push-up coming from the elementary schools. All the additional instructional strategies, the supplemental instruction, interventions, and it does take time, and we are starting to see the fruit of those efforts. So it is a collegial effort throughout the district, and I think that it's culminating by looking at the grade 11 performances.
So at the 11th grade, we made better than the state average, right? Looking at this?
I would have to say we did, yes.
Okay.
Which is a positive, big positive. So, having said that, what do we do with the score reporting data? These are professional conversations that are going on throughout the district. How to use the park data to identify your strengths and weaknesses, how should the data be used to guide our instruction, and what are our additional next steps? One thing I did not include was the fact that there is another report that we get with park results, which is very detailed. It's evidence tables, and it all revolves around item analysis. So not only do we get a cumulative score, but each individual student receives an item analysis. So if they tested on one section of a math test, they are going to be given, if it was a series of 7, 8, 9 questions, each question they were given, they have a separate piece in a report that tells them what skill set was tested, which tells us on the instructional end where the necessary steps need to be taken to increase that skill set, to raise their scores, and to help out with the college and career readiness, which is what the test is all about. So, having said that, we're looking for growth throughout the district in the upcoming year. Park will start in April, and we're already making plans for the instruction, the workshops, and the practice testing that has to be done beforehand. And I thank you, and I appreciate your attention. And if you have any questions, Ms. Winters will be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mrs. Pond. Thank you very much. tonight by Mr. Dieter Lurch of Lurch, Vinci, and Higgins. However, he's running a few minutes late, so I don't know how you want to.
Maybe we'll go to recognition of the public and then.
Forgive me on the pronunciation of the names. The first name on the list is Sean Barksdale. Sean Barksdale?
He's actually a student, he may have signed it, maybe he will.
Got it, okay. Stacy Barksdale. Eric Swain. Pastor. We do have a lot of names on the list this evening, and per our policy, we allocate 3 minutes per person, so just a reminder to the members of the public. Pastor Wilson, the floor is yours. Good evening.
Good evening. We're all aware of the looming chaos that is hovering over our children. If things do not change, and I don't see how they're going to change, come February, 50% of the children in the public schools are going to be walking to school. I consider them victims of a problem that they did not create. And I believe it's time for us to target our attention to what the problem is. So, gentlemen, I'm challenging you to go to your superiors and say to your superiors, we need a moratorium, at least a 5-year moratorium on residential building in Lakewood. Because the problem that we are facing today did not originate in the education department. We all know this. We all come here every meeting trying to solve a problem that does not originate in this room. We all know that the problem of Lakewood has to do with the irresponsible building of this community. And your superiors are the ones that are in charge of it. So I'm challenging you to go to your superiors and say to him, hey, listen, you're creating the problem. And you have to stop this. Yes. I believe Lakewood is a town for everybody, and we will never try to stop anyone from coming. But when it is about to hurt our children, it's time for us to tackle this thing head on, man. We all know what the problem is. Last night, in our town's meeting, they approved projects that in the next 5 years, 2,000 children would come to Lakewood. Where's the money going to come from for those kids? So every year, we're going to be having the same, it's almost like we come here to vent, and the issue does not get resolved. When are we going to get serious about it? Say, you know what? Let's tackle the issue head on. We keep talking about the state giving us more money. The state has spoken loud and clear. There is no money coming to Lakewood. The state says If Lakewood does not learn to govern itself, don't even look to us. So how are we going to solve the problem of Lakewood? We got to tackle the problem head on, man. And we got to go to our leaders and say, listen, we got to stop this. Otherwise, we come here over and over and over again, blaming each other. And we're not solving the issue. Shy School is going to add 38 new classrooms coming to Shy. Where's the money going to come from? You're the board, and your job is to solve problems. Well, I'm telling you what the problem is. You have to go to your superiors and listen, you are creating this problem, you got to solve it. The township leadership is saying it is your problem. So I'm challenging you tonight. Otherwise, we have no resort but to take to the streets.
Pastor, thank you. We're at about 4.5 minutes at this point.
Okay.
Appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Okay.
Les Barron.
Good evening. My name is Brian Gaston. I represent an organization that represents boys and girls groups that have been playing basketball in gym training facilities. I don't recognize the nose, faces here, but I see Mr. Solo. I want to give Mr. Solo. Sorry. I want to give him a thank you. And we've been playing for about 15 years. I don't know the new faces, but I remember when I started with Dr. Dave Weintraub and Lucille. I used to come every month and drop off a check for our dues, and it was a personal relationship. I used to come home every time to thank her. And at a certain point when the offices moved to Madison Avenue, they said, you can't personally come to the building anymore. That's when I lost communication, but I appreciate what was behind the arrangements and making the facilities available. 4 weeks ago, we got a notice. I have just the oldest invoice I've ever found, so 10 years ago, is when we started at $32 an hour, is what we paid. These are not-for-profits. These are different groups, different schools, and many organizations that were using facilities. The last 2 years, the numbers have been going up, and I understand most organizations dropped out. There's a few organizations still left using the facilities, and as of 3 weeks ago, I got an email that the rates were going up about 4 times of what we were paying back when we started. If there's anything possible, these are groups, non-for-profit, these are community kids, different organizations. I don't know all of them, but I see them coming, going, the couples dropping off the children there, nights, weekends. If there's anything that we can do to organize this, go back to a rate that's fair so the children will still be able to have access to the facilities. I appreciate it, Randy, and hope here.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
We had a policy committee meeting earlier today, and we have some proposals that the administration is now considering, including, I think that we'll announce them when the administration will work out the details, but we have something that we're working on for those that do not require extensive cleanings or supervision, and we have a track record of properly using the facilities. Mr. Hopkins.
Good evening, members of the board, professionals. We're in trouble. It comes down to New Jersey's home rule state. And with home rule, we get to make our own decisions on how we're going to do things, why we're going to do things, and how we're going to finance and keep an order of business. But what we have been doing is getting by. And not getting by well. The state has been warning us over the years. Be careful. Be careful. You're overextending yourself. You cannot go into deficit spending, no matter how much you need for one thing. Granted, their formula for funding education is terrible. They ought to knock most of those people out in Trenton that make these decisions and hopefully send them somewhere else. They're not doing our bidding. But they can easily point to the districts and say, what's the district? When they make rules that handcuff us, it's difficult. Nevertheless, we're going to point out that we have seen the enemy. And it is us, because we're responsible for home rule ourselves. But yet we're allowing deficits to occur. And some of it I know you can't avoid. Some of it you can. The township of Lakewood is not a rich community. It's a community that's getting by. We're taxed to the limit. You're not going to get any more money from the taxpayers of Lakewood Township. You're not going to get any money from the municipality, or the county, or the state, or the federal government, because they all manage their affairs equally as bad. Now, so what we have to do, understanding where the situation is, I believe that this referendum is going to be voted down. And that's going to put an awful lot of children on their own to walk these streets from home to school and to school back home. I don't know how much help is going to be forthcoming from the township. They got their own problems. So what that means to us is this is near disaster. Just like I expect that township committee to take care of this township and do prudent things, I expect you guys to do the same thing. And lady, it's not the easy decisions that make us good or great. It's the really tough ones. The tough ones are the ones that we have to muster every bit of courage inside of us to say, I've got some really hard decisions to be making. There's going to be a hell of a lot of people that are mad at me. And they're not going to be nice to me, and they're not going to negotiate well with me, and they're not going to do all the things that I would wish they would do, because I'm doing my best. But nevertheless, you all must understand fiscal responsibility. This is not your business. This is the business of the school district, and you're responsible for every child in this district, and their parents, and the stakeholders, and all those people that are trying to have a thorough and efficient education for their children.
Mr. Hoppe, we're at the 4.5 mark. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Annette Caraway. Ernie, I apologize.
My remarks and questions refer back to the previous meeting. So I don't know her name, but the transportation director, I think it is. The timeline that you had given us, this calendar, this one, I just want to clarify, because it had the dates, it had the referendum, 25th instead of 26th. But the referendum is the 26th. So on this calendar for January, do we move all of this over a day? Meaning that the bid 16-0011, does it go out in the paper next Thursday or that Friday? That's one of the questions. My other question, of course, is about Tracy busing. Gus had, I believe it was Gus, in his presentation, it was indicated that in addition to separating the boys and the girls, there is also a separation of the same gender, non-public schools, but different groups. I just want to clarify if that was what we heard, and how does that affect finance?
Mr. Kokowicz, what we'll do is we're going to answer all the questions at the end. Mr. Kokowicz, we answer all the questions at the end. Thank you, I appreciate it. So if you have all the questions, we'll write them down and come back. Thank you.
And my last question, or my statement. I ditto what Pastor Glenn, Mr. Hoppe has already said. We're trying to fix a problem in this room that we did not create in the education area of the town. I think that, like I said at the last meeting, it's time for people to get serious. No one in their right mind moves to a town that is 2 steps from being bankrupt, especially in bringing children in tow. I'm not talking about people who are already here and, we happen to have children. I'm talking about the people who are purposely moving to this town. One, there's something that is drawing these families here with these children, and we have no money to educate them, bus them. Every street in this town is deemed dangerous. We all drive here, and I'm not saying it's one group versus the other. It's so congested that it's not safe for anyone. So how will anyone feel when those kids can't get busing because we can't afford it, or resources are lost out of classrooms, public school, non-public? It doesn't matter at this point. It's the fact that these children will not have the opportunity to really benefit from what they should, which is their right to have an education, to a fair and thorough education. We're not going to be able to give that. Over busing, let's get real. It is unsustainable. But I don't want to go over my 3.5 minutes. If you guys would just clarify those 2 things for me and everybody else.
We'll answer them at the very end. Thank you, appreciate it. Alejandra, we answer all the questions at the very end after the public participation session is over. Alejandra Morales.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Alejandra. I'm living in Lakewood. I don't know from where me start to speak, but I'm very upset because this is a very, very serious problem. The last week, in February 12th, 2 days before this meeting, somebody else and me, I start to call each one father for having kids in this public school and say, come on to the meeting because this is a very serious problem. So many people, they don't know what happened in February. And again, the meeting is canceled. What do you think? What do you think for this case? You don't care because your son is not in public at school? I know this problem affects public and private. But they don't even to know the people have kids in the public at school coming over here and let them know what happened. This is not the first time. I'm not stupid, okay? I'm so tired because it's not the first time. And everybody knows here. Everybody knows. My question tonight is, when you think to let you know, everybody, what happened in Lakewood for February? No more bus. When start to let you know the parents for the public kids? When?
I apologize. Can you repeat the question? I don't think we heard you.
My question is when?
She wants to know when the public school parents will be notified
Yes.
of what's happening in February. At the last meeting, the board actually asked for kind of a contingency plan for administration, and we actually spoke about that all the parents need to be notified well in advance so they could make a plan accordingly. So I share your concerns.
Yes, but February is at the corner. And also, they say the township is responsibility to bring to the Garden Cross men of women. But this problem, they need to take care of everybody together, not only you, not only the township, it's everybody. And don't forget to the kids in the public schools, mostly is Latino, Spanish. I told you again, I know exactly what happened is here. And I don't speak tonight because this is something completely different to this. But I know exactly the problem over here in Lakewood. And I let you know, everybody here, I'm not a stupid lady. My problem is I don't speak English very well, but I understand completely. Stop the plane again to cancel the meetings, because this is not the first time. And not only you have business to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morales. We'll respond, like I said, we'll respond to all the questions at the end. We have everybody in the public speaking, we'll go back. I'm taking notes. Mr. Tift.
Good evening. I just want to start by thanking the teachers and the superintendent for the results of the contest, for their hard work and dedication to our students. Those test scores don't happen by magic. It takes hard work and dedication. So, Ms. Winters, and thank you to the teachers for doing a fine job. I just have a two-part question. There's a way to answer all the questions. Just to follow up from the last special meeting that we had that was canceled, that we really had on the 13th. Gus has spoke about a meeting with the township as far as their plan if the referendum fails. As far as safety, crossing guards, what is the plan for the township to make sure that these kids get to school safely? Because the referendum is right around the corner. All right, so, and what Ms. Morales has brought up as well is very important. When are we going to notify these parents so they can also have a contingency plan? So they can plan rides or, whatever they need to do without waiting to the last minute, all right, before these things take place. All right. That's it. I just want to know what the meeting was about with the township, just to follow up and find out what happened. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tift. Mr. Rush.
Good evening.
Good evening.
At the last meeting, special meeting that we had, I asked a question at that time, and I know that we had more than 4 board members here, it would have to be an official meeting. So I understood that part. And I did ask another question, and that was, had the board received that information that was passed out at the last meeting? And somebody told me they had just gotten it 10 minutes before the meeting started. I don't understand that, but you guys, this is not a new phenomenon that we have. I distinctly remember us going through the same problem in '86, and it seems like every year, the day after, the courtesy busing. But I will say that when it comes to athletics. Ms. Winters, the district did buy 2 buses dedicated just for that. So no matter what happens in this referendum, and people have to, our kids are going to suffer and they have to walk, our sports teams will still be able to go from point A to point B. And those buses will not be used to transport children. And I think those are the buses that we own. We don't contract with any company. But the other thing is, I just, it's heartbreaking to come here and talk about the exact same thing every meeting. And I won't accuse you guys of not doing what you should be doing, but I do hold somewhat, you guys somewhat responsible because the jobs that you have up there, you chose to take them. And you knew exactly what they were, even if you were appointed. Even if you were appointed, you still chose to take it because they asked them to know. So I would submit to you that everything that you have to do with regards to our kids, keep that first and foremost. Because our kids are first and foremost with us. And, it's just hard. And Superintendent, I know you got a lot on your plate, but, sometimes you got to make it a salsa or make it a platter. But I don't know what we're going to do. And I guess I would welcome you being the board president. I don't think I had a chance to meet you. And I tell you, you have to be good too. You never came to a meeting, you were the board president. I think that's really good. It only means, hopefully that means you're dedicated. So, I was going to say that, Mark. But, I just, like Pastor Glenn and Mr. Hart, everybody, we've tried to help. We try to do what we can. And, the one thing that I know, if a kid has to walk to school, and I will ask this, maybe you can answer this one right now. If a parent has 2 or 3 kids and they have to go to different schools, and I understand now, if you get to school early, you can't get in. Well, if it's cold, then somebody has to